Let me open that. All right. Colleagues, let's try to come back. Don't worry how far you've come with that. So the plan now is for us to go round. Maybe I will hold the paper, and then one from the team will talk us through the whole backward design. Everybody will go through anyway. And as we do, the other teams think of what we said is a FAT and what is a good IRAT, and we can provide comments to each other. Okay? Anyone who's willing to start? You can start? All right. Yes. I can take, so the ones, how does it work with what is the best way for this one to be captured, you think, the camera? Okay, I can hold it if that's better, because that's a bit of an angle over there. Okay.
Just take a mic, maybe?
Yes, please. So I deactivate mine, and we have yours, and I will be your.
All right, we selected learning outcomes from the module that has got communication as one of the study units. And the learning outcomes are then to identify, actually the first one is to explain the process of communication using the communication model. And then the students have to identify what are the communication barriers and how do they overcome it. Then they need to apply the components of communication based on a practical example. And then the task that they would have to do would be to role play a consultation with a scenario given. And the scenario that we chose was that it's in a consultation with a patient who cannot express themselves in English. So we're creating a problem that language will then be a barrier. Okay? And then we also said the patient is a newly diagnosed diabetic. So it's somebody that has not gotten any information before. You really need to get a lot of history from them, and you also need to give information in terms of how they are going to manage their condition. So the barrier would actually play a crucial role, or impact on how the education is going to take place. And we also said, to be specific, usually there would be your diet assistants or your teaching assistants. So we said they are not there, because then they could come in and help with the translation. So they are not there. Yeah. Okay. Then the questions would be that they need to be able to identify the communication problem, which is language as a barrier, develop a strategy to overcome the problem. How are they then going to conduct the consultation? And obviously they do that in the form of a role play of the scenario in groups. Okay, and then the questions that we selected, the lower levels ones, it's to ask them, the communication model follows the following sequence, and then we give different sequence, obviously with the correct one. And that would be that it's the message going to the sender, and then there's interface, where there's your noise, and all the barriers. And then there's the receiver, and then there would also be a feedback loop there. And then the other question is, in what phase will you then find the language barrier? Obviously, it's in the interface. So the students need to identify in what phase in the whole communication model do you find the barriers. And then the medium level question, what would result? What would be the result if there is a communication barrier? Then that's where you get distorted information. That's where the patient would be uncomfortable. That's where you, as the health professional, you send the one message, but then at the receiver, they might actually hear something else because you're not on the same level in terms of language. Okay? Yeah.
So that's the most.
Yes, we give options. All of them would be barriers, but then they have to pick one that is the least correct of the of the ones that we give as options. Okay, and then the high levels would be what are the most effective strategies to overcome this barrier in a consultation. Here also we give anything that can work, but we want something that would be most effective. For an example, this consultation, for an example, we were thinking the most correct would be you can use pictures. You know, when you use posters and you've got a green tick and a red cross to say this is what you do, this is what you don't do. And also when taking the history from the patient, you can ask, for example, if you want to know how much sugar they put in their coffee, you can have pictures of a teaspoon, a tablespoon, a hipped one, a leveled one, so they can actually point. They don't necessarily have to say, so you can use pictures. So we want the students to be able to develop. It's more of a creation of an intervention or of a strategy that would actually remedy, you know, the situation to make sure that the consultation runs smooth.
Great, thank you. Comments? Comments? Can you pass the microphone?
Question.
Question, comments, obviously. Consultation.
I'm wondering, how is it happening? I'm in one group, there's another group, there's another group. What's happening? What are we, what is the specific answer?
Are you referring to the FAT?
Yes, I'm referring to the FAT.
In the application,
If we remember the 4 S's.
if we look for a specific choice, are you going to provide this, or it's an open-ended scenario?
Okay, in terms of the specific choice, that is why there's a number of barriers to communication. That's why we select and we specifically said to them language. That's why we said the patient cannot express themselves, so the specific choice would be the language as a barrier.
Yes.
So you're going to give them that.
So all of them, yeah, I know where it comes from. So it's almost like the scenario we've seen with the medical scenario.
They'll compare.
Oh, yes, sorry, guys. Yes. Yeah. Maybe I can use the microphone as well when I'm talking. It's easier than to do that. So I think the question here is, we have a role play. So we have a series of collaborative activities that normally they will be ideal in a case-based scenario. The question now is for us to what extent we can turn this scenario to become a TBL FAT scenario, and we somehow consolidate all the possible strategies and answers. We have then a mechanism to have a list, and then together we can identify out of 3 or 4 the best strategy. So this is where we can close the loop to make the TBL. You can do it from the very beginning. That's the easiest way of doing it. The scenario itself is a multiple choice scenario, and then once they select it, then they show how they apply it. So first of all, you give them that this is the scenario, that's the patient, foreign language, English, all these kind of things. These are 4 different choices, which in your team decide which of the 4 choices, strategies, you will use, and then design an intervention based on that. Or vice versa, you do all these things that you say, but then you need to consolidate what is the single best strategy that you will advise people to do. Yeah. So, and this is where you will find most of the tension in your scenarios. And we're talking here. You might feel, I really don't want to drive one choice, and that's good. But for the sake of having a consistency in the TBL, we advise that you drive this kind of agreement within the 4, 5, 10 teams, some of that. Yeah. It could be part of the fact that they create 4 possible choices themselves. Like they create the quiz that potentially gives the choice as part of the intervention. But apart from that, what about the rats? So we had a question that was very factual, and then as we move, we had also questions around the best possible answer, like almost like a mini scenario there that's been given to them. I think they look very appropriate.
We said in the medium one, that question will actually a little bit confusion for the team.
That's the if question. Yeah.
That would be the team.
Is it working? Oh. Yes. So we are saying about the different routes, and that the second question, which is the conditional, the if that was the situation, it could be the one that it can be open to appeals. This is where you expect students to say, well, but is it black and white? What if the level of English, and how can you phrase the question? So but that's good. That's actually part of the TBL to be working. Any other comments? How long? How would you propose that you run that? I mean, knowing that TBL could be, all these are completed in one day as part of a 2 hours event. Or you could do some things online or some things face-to-face in the class. Are there particular things that you think they must be complete in the class, and things that you could sacrifice for an online? And just your thoughts?
I think that it would just follow a pattern of there would have to be some basic information like the model and what are the components of effective communication as preparation individual on their own. And then the scenario is given in class. And then they can have a few moments, just to prepare for them, for the role playing. Then what they can do as a continuation, even outside the classroom, it's to, the answers, like we said, would give very similar answers, but we want them to choose the most relevant or the most effective according to what the question is asking. Then they can go and sort of critique the other options, why they are not the most relevant.
And I think, again, having this type of STEM in your question, what is the most preferred or the most suitable for the context, you might get in the TRAT, and students obviously fighting for their own answers. And then in the clarification session, that will be the beautiful thing, that you'll have your team saying, I believe, for example, offering visual stimuli, it won't work because we remove, and someone say, yes, but that perhaps might disadvantage particular people, and so on. And you'll end up with a good dialogue. But I will say that for a scenario like that, you should account for a full 2 hours type of event. And if you don't have the 2 hours to put in the event, you need to decide, for example, parts of it will have to go online. Yeah, I think the IRAT is safe to go online. Yeah, because they can go and they can practice and so on. And the other, of course, thing to remember is what type of resources will you give to the students to practice. So there's enough preparation there. Thank you. Great. Shall I move with you as I am on that side? Thank you. I am in the right. Yes? Good. Great. It's all right. It's working.
I'm just worried about your head all the time.
For team-based learning, we are going to create permanent groups of between 8 to 10 using the file system. So there'll be a file where they sign every day. And then for this specific topic of the neuromuscular junction, we'll have 2 outcomes. The first one being that the student must be able to describe the events at the neuromuscular junction. And then the second objective is for the students to illustrate by means of different chemicals the effects of external factors on the neuromuscular junction. So this information with the outcomes will be on Ifundi from the beginning of the semester, and they will be familiar with that. So on that specific lesson that we will put on our lesson plan, that we are going to use a team-based learning approach, they will come into class and we will use multiple choice questions that they must be able to discuss in groups. So the first one, we'll use the multiple choice questions, and it will just assess mostly the first learning objective of what do they understand about the neuromuscular junction, and then what kind of transmission is carried by the neuromuscular junction. And for the application, then we will start bringing in the different chemicals that can affect the neuromuscular junction. And there we are also specific, where we give them a scenario, something that is going to happen, and they must choose between the different chemicals which one is suitable for that question. And then the third one is the analyze, which is now more complex, and we give them a scenario from World War II where nerve gases were used as biological weapons, and that most of the civilians died because of cardiac arrest. And from the 4 options, they must choose the sequence of events that would have led to those deaths in the civilians. And then they can only do that if they understand the mechanisms, as from question 1 and question 2, of how the different chemicals work. And then after that, they will do online so that was the red, and then the fact they will do an essay. And in that essay, they look at the detailed mechanisms of how the chemicals can be used, firstly in surgery, which is beneficial, in biological warfare, which is an adverse effect, and also in food poisoning, which is an adverse effect. So in that essay, they will give exact details of how these different chemicals can affect the neuromuscular junction. So that we make sure that the students participated and they do get the marks they deserve, we will do the peer review on Ifundi so that the other group members can show how someone contributed online, because some students don't do anything online. They just come to class, sign the file, and they go home and forget about the group. So we'll use peer review to see if they are all contributing to the team work.
Thank you.
Yes.
Comments? Questions? So the application scenario,
yes,
it's going to be it's going to come as a multiple choice as well. Yes?
Yes, we thought we should be specific based on that example, but it can actually work well as in not a multiple choice, a long question, open
I
question.
think the multiple choice will work well, because in that case they need to put the mechanisms all together in order. So actually it's a high level question, although it appears like a multiple choice, is almost a scenario with 4 possible answers. You need to have a lot of thinking, potentially, other people, they might say, well, before you provide your answer to that multiple choice, you have your own additional discussion. You might do a bit of concept mapping, drafting, negotiation, and then you provide your answer. But the IRATs and the TRATs will model how they should be arriving to that answer, which is important. Yeah. So if we compare now the two, this is a more of an open-ended, and we need to find a way to close it to make it specific, and that will be your challenge. And for you, it will be more about, is the question at this FAT critical enough, high level enough, so it's not going to result almost, because they've done all the training in IRAT and TRAT, is a 5-minute, okay, I know the answer, I'm going to do it. So you have to be very careful how you're going to put that question, and have some follow-up, backup questions in case, actually you have very clever people in the room, which works. But that is more of a typical FAT application. And if you remember yesterday, for the ones that you were here, our FAT application was what was the best metaphor for a TBL. We could have kept going for that. I mean, both teams, if you remember, you had totally different views. I didn't tease out your rationale so much, but I can keep going for 20 minutes to establish why it is a bass or a jazz or so on. So I think we are in the right direction here. It's very good. Thank you. Great. Anyone? Would you like to come over? Thank you. It's also good that the learning outcomes are articulated, so we have we measure what we want there, the descriptions and the actual identification of the processes, wasn't it? Yeah. Describe and illustrate. Thank you. I'll use this hand.
With management, it's very important to identify problem areas and to do quality improvement. So my outcome will be to do quality improvement, different processes that you can use, how to apply these processes, and to develop action plans that actually works. So I will give them some study work after I have my outcome. So the World Health Organization identifies or gives a definition of what is dispensing errors, because that is what I'm going to give them in the case study. And they also classify the different dispensing errors. So is it administration or manufacturing or distribution? Where is the dispensing error? And then I also will give them the theory of the different quality improvement processes, and the GPP is the good pharmacy practice. It's guidelines on the dispensing, so they will have to know dispensing, the good practice. And also I will give them an article of a dispensing error. Then in the during the RAT, I will give them questions pertaining to the learning material that I gave them. So they have to name dispensing errors on that article. They must name I will give them A, B, C, and D, and they must get the correct one. And they must also identify a process that will be most applicable to this article. So also A, B, C, and D, and they must choose the correct one. And then also I will say, which cycle do you think illustrates the gap in this dispensing, the GPP? So they must know the GPP, and I will give them the different scenarios, and they must choose the correct GPP process. So that will be the medium. And then for the higher, I will say evaluate the following action plans for the appropriate, whether it's appropriate to this article, and then I will give them action plans, and they must choose the most correct one. And that will be a higher thinking. So in the actual setting, I will give them also then a case study of dispensing error, and they have to identify and select the process, and then also select the correct action plan. So that will also be A, B, and C, so there will be specific outcomes.
Thank you. Comments? Questions? Yes, I'll pass the mic.
When you said the outcomes, I was missing the verbs on the paper, but you did mention it. You said do quality improvement. Yes. So eventually, did they do it? Okay, so I would have been, if I was a student, I would have just been a little confused as to where the quality improvement fits in terms of the outcomes. Quality improvement, okay, what about it? What is it that you're going to want me to do with it? Just, yeah, so actually all of those things fit in the process. I understand now.
So quality improvement is
But the question is, how did you get there in terms of this activity? Because that's the outcome.
Yes. So if the main thing is that the students, they will be able to apply quality improvement processes in a particular scenario, and that's the key thing, you're questioning what supportive activities in the hierarchy that so on they lead into that scenario. And I think you mentioned that you will give them here scenarios where you're going to have to mix and match different processes.
So quality improvement is my topic. So it is something that we have to do daily, weekly, monthly, depend on what type of improvement there is. And then they must know which process to use in different scenarios and to apply those processes and develop action plans. So that is actually a thing that's happening. Quality improvement is there always. Okay.
So your question was more about the phrasing of the outcome?
Yes,
Okay.
because I mean we have to be able to say at the end of the day, yes, we reached this.
Yes, you measure it.
We
and that
can
yeah,
get
yeah.
there, and then I wasn't sure how we're going to just quality improvement
Yes. So I think
It's the heading. That's
yeah. So the outcome will be more about students after completing this series of events, they should be able to apply strategies or processes of quality improvement
to get improvement.
Differentiate between different processes and different outputs, and that will become all obvious with this mixing and matching of the scenarios. Yeah, that's how we believe it. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Cheers. Now, again, it's a good typical scenario. It could actually work really well. I will say, because there's a lot of choice. Yeah, the more choice we give them, specific choice, the easier it is in the TBL world. That makes your life a bit more difficult in coming with choices that they are both challenging enough, but also doable. It's not like things that they can never happen. And the way they're going to phrase them and so on. Perhaps what it didn't come across throughout my 2 days is that once you've done your application, for example, you have your choice, you can then open it up. You can then, for example, if you made the choice of the right cycle of processes, and they've done discussions, and then you want them to apply it in a written essay, you can do that. It might not be necessarily the direct outcome of the TBL, but as in the example with the big history guys, their assessment was essays. But all the things that they learned in the TBL, they help them write the essay. The same thing actually you can do there. And then you can make it more personalized and you can measure more the individual's output of the TBL. Yeah? So, but you cannot really do that as part of the TBL 2 hours. You cannot really ask them to write the essay on the spot. You will give them, a deadline. It's going to be different. It goes down to assessment. So either you assess everything and that's your assessment, or TBL is just one component that leads to a bigger assessment. The biggest complaints that will happen when you do all this and all this effort and the assessment is totally random. I mean, if you assess something totally random, an essay on a topic that you haven't done in the TBL or anything, then you will get complaints from students, believe me. So you have to be prepared for that. And the same goes with the exam to some extent. Like, they need to see the value of TBL to what? They will ask that. Because it's very important. Thank you. Any of the two remaining? Would you like to come? If online colleagues, you already have done something, even if it is a few words. No much? All right, okay. At least you are listening and you are participating in that. Is that, you have a different. There you are, I'll pass that part. Listen, I'll hold it for you so you can do more.
Okay. So we have one outcome, but when listening to you, we realized that we could have broken it down. Our outcome is distinguish between normative and formational influences. This is social psychology. So we could have said, explain it. That could have been the last one. We could have said, first explain normative and informational, and we also have private and public conformity. So we could have broken it down, but that's the kind of big one. So our application part, because we are doing the backward thing, so now we have the outcomes. So we started with the application. So that's a little story of Andy, who's trying to select a module for an elective, and she knows that her boyfriend struggled with psychology, but she's not sure what to take, and then her friends choose psychology, and she takes psychology eventually too. So we are trying to put some elements of both sides so that you might be confused, but you really have to understand it. And then we do have the options, either normative or informational, but we added a reason to also make it a little bit more complicated. So some of the options would have the right influence, but a wrong reason. So they really have to understand more than just, so that's the fat. And then in order to get there, of course, we had different questions helping them to understand what is normative, what is informative, and then also the type of conformities. Yeah. So that's pretty much it.
Thank you.
In terms of the FAT, I think I just want to clarify my own thinking. So that's the application task that they will do, and then there's 4 choices. And the only thing that they have to do in that is to make a choice, and then the FAT's over. Or is there more things to the FAT? Is it so you'll get into a session? Yeah. So I'm just asking because it seems like I hear what you're saying. There's a lot of thinking going into that questions and maybe some reasoning, etc. But is that okay? I thought it should be something where they actually write something, create something, and I think that was how ours was structured. But it's not necessary. They can choose and then it's finished.
They can choose and they can finish, but in order to arrive to that FAT decision, they should then there need to be enough information there or challenge that they have to do something more. For example, it might be that they need to go together, revisit their notes, maybe do a bit of concept map, for example, break down all the 4 options and try to see, mix and match which is the correct. If the answer is as simple, like in 3 minutes everybody will get it, then actually this is a rat question, it's not a FAT question. And that's, you will find out this yourself. So in that case, they played with providing mix and match between reasoning and choice in a way. And I would imagine that most of the students, they will break it down. I can imagine them doing a concept map, taking a piece of paper, putting the 4 things and say, that's a correct reason, that's the reason why. An additional thing, of course, you can add here is that as part of the FAT, you choose, and then you need to be able to defend your choice in one presentation. So you add a presentational element, but within the specific choice. Or it's so complicated as a scenario that they need to do a lot of unpacking before they arrive. But as an activity, that is an ideal type of FAT. So the same happens with you. You have role plays and a number of things that they complement the FAT, but the main thing is they need to understand the strategies or choose the right strategy, the best. Yes, exactly. So once that is what is about specific choice. There is specific choice, but then you really need to present it, understand it, unpack it, critique it, and you can move it like that.
And we thought that for a follow-up, because this is something that we would ask in the exam, they can now say, okay, now that you understand these concepts very well, go give examples from your own life of normative and informational, so that now they've gone all through this and they are in the perfect position to say, okay, in my own life, I recognize it, because that's the whole idea, to always get it back to them. So this is the first year module, so it's not going to go write a long essay, but anyway, that's just to pull everything together. In the exam, we might ask them, give us an example from your own life of normative influence.
If you ask such a multiple choice question in the exam or whatever, that can actually be not only 1 mark. It can actually be more marks. Would you suggest that? Because in order to answer that, it's quite a lot of thinking that needs to go into it. Why would you just award 1 point in a multiple choice? I'm asking because currently our multiple choice questions are most of them are 1 point, 1 mark. And I'm thinking, I haven't seen a multiple choice question with more points, so I've never thought about it. But now when I'm sitting here, I can imagine that you can actually ask more marks for a difficult multiple choice question.
Well, I don't know how your exams are run here, but in our university, with the exam, you also have the notes, that you can submit notes. And sometimes the people, they say, show us the process of thinking. So it could be a quick concept or a diagram that you do in order to showcase how did you arrive in that question. Actually, in engineering and some they will demand that you will show in the sketch the calculations that you've done in order to arrive. Which is something that you can do here, if you believe. And then in that case, you might give them 5 points or 10 points. But almost becomes, then it's not a multiple choice, is a format of a multiple choice for a case study.
Yeah, with our numbers, the problem with our numbers is that we want to have the higher levels, but in a multiple choice that the machine can mark. So we're not going to go for that route. Then we do have some applications questions. So we do also have a case study at the end with writing. But we also, multiple choice, we also want on the different levels. So we would still give it 1 mark, because we are trying not to make the multiple choice case studies too long. Because for me, it's about reading. You know, it shouldn't take you 5 minutes just to read for one mark. That's not fair.
But going back to the link, if you know that the exam later on, which is timed and has, I don't know how much, 20, 40 multiple choice, whatever you have, if they do the TBL in that format and they practice their mind of thinking, and they know that they have to look for distractors and things like that, that is the buy-in for them. So the more TBL you do, the better you will perform in the exam, and that will be also a research question for you. Do you find any kind of evidence, and can you promote that? Which is quite good. Thank you.
Okay. This is my colleague's module. It's all about social. Okay, so for the fats we decided, she said that they must use the photo voice. So the photo voice is all about you in the group. You're going to have to take your own photo of what you think social group work is. So what is it entailing? So by taking your own photo in the group work, we have to decide about what photo is going to depict social group work the best. So they have to vote for the best photo, and then that's where the specific what's a specific problem, yeah. So then they can go on, and then at the end they're going to choose the best photo, and then there could actually be a few photos, because only one photo, all our backgrounds and cultures and stuff, there could actually be a few correct photos, so it couldn't only be one. Then further on at the choices for the rats, we said some of it will be obviously the different hierarchy for the questions. Could also be the they have to firstly in their practice how does the social group operate, or they have to explain it a bit better, and then the hierarchy they have to just background to explain the definition a bit better.
Sounds good. Thank you. Comments? Now we are back.
Would the rats be in a multiple choice fashion?
Just wait that moment that microphones they will be all over them.
Okay. The first one with the rats is multi-choice. We thought that will be the lower Bloom level. And then the second one in practice, how does social group works operate? That will be more what they can see with that when they take the photos, but they must also can tell you in a question that. And then to compose, and as jy moet so 'n bietjie nader bring, compose your own best possible definition on social group work in your culture background. So that is that's it's a little bit applying, but it's not really applying. It's more observation, because this is the introduction to social work. It's the first time they get information on. It's the first outcome in the module. So it's to get the concepts. Yes.
Remember that in the IRATs and the TRATs, it's not working? Okay now, test. All right. One thing to remember about the IRATs and the TRATs, well, it's essentially the same thing, it's not different. You could potentially, like yesterday we had an example from the GAMSAT, from the medical examination, that they were given text, and then they were given to an opportunity to make an interpretation of a text. Most of them are fixed questions. So they give them, like these are the 4 possible choices you can make. But I have seen examples where they were asked to write very quick mini answers or fill the gaps, depending what the quiz tool that you are using. So you can have a mix and match. So it's not only that's, what is the best metaphor for TBL using the yesterday? A musician, a bus driver, what else do we have? I can't remember. Jazz music, yeah. The fisherman and something else. That could be one way, and you're looking for the single best answer. You could have this as the best metaphor for that is, and then there will be type no more than 3 words or 4 words. It could be mix and match, 4 images and 4 theories, and you can do it. So the more the tool allows for multiple choice questions and different types of quizzes to become more interesting, you can feel free to play with them. Still, there's going to be one possible answer, or the right combination and the wrong combination, that they will come back to them in the TIRAT as feedback. So we can do a little concept map. I mean, someone was using Padlet yesterday. I was one of our colleagues. Like, you may want to use, if there are some, I don't know if the Sakai allows, but there could be that you type in a couple of things and then you have a model answer next to it. Like, you do a little concept map. Are we?
Maybe you could just repeat it. We have a Padlet integration.
Ah, great. So actually there is a Padlet integration. You can bring this as part of the preparative activities, either in the IRATs or the TIRATs. And they can use that as an opportunity to have a discussion later on in the TIRAT. Concept mapping, unpacking concepts, mixing and matching, and correspondence and these kind of things are good. I think yesterday we were trying to figure out if there is a way that in the TIRATs and the IRATs you can have this kind of confidence level scoring. For people who were not here yesterday, we said instead of only having the correct and the least correct, you might want to say you've been given 4 points for that question, and where do you place your points in answer 1, all 4, because I'm confident, or I think it's between 2, so I say 2 points here and 2 points there, 0 and 0, and then the tool calculates the average score. So if you're totally ignorant, you might put 1 point equal to every answer, and that will result to 0 points for you because you burn them all. Or you say, I'm confident it's 4 in number 1, and they get all the points there. So there are other ways to think how you can engage them in the TIRAT. So it's not just black and white. There's all the possible shades. Yeah? But I think that's something we've been working to see how could happen, this kind of balance score. That's from a technical point of view. We have a microphone, we do.
Would you also include this balancing of the points in the final application then, or only in the IRATs and the TIRATs?
It's a good question. In practice, in the application one, because in the application normally they come with this choice and then they have to defend it and then pack it. So it's become more of a collaborative thing. But it could be that you have a series of these kind of questions and then based on the confidence. But I think it works better to enable the discussion in the TIRAT, to be honest. So you say, oh, I put my 2 points there. Where did you put? I put 2 there and 1 there and 1 there. Oh, what is your reasoning for that? It facilitates a bit their thinking. Whereas in the application, you want to move out of that. You want to talk more about the content or the concept. But why not? You can think about it. Okay. Just checking time. It's 12:30. Are we breaking? What's happening? Yes, we are. Do we? That's all right. Do we have anything from our online colleagues? Can they give us do they use any? Yeah. It's fine. As long as they follow and they don't, because that would be good to have questions, which is important.
With the marks you're giving like that.
Sorry, go, Chad.
By allowing them to choose where they put their marks, that will also engage them in doing more preparation beforehand. If they see they don't know exactly what the answers is, they'll probably come more prepared also. But they won't feel left out during the session because they can also participate in. Yeah, they can try. So I think that's a good way in tricking them into the preparation.
I just don't know if Sakai can do it.
I mean, again, depending on if you're going to end up doing paper-based, then there is no reason why you cannot do it. But then you don't calculate. There's not going to be a way for you to calculate. It's going to be a nightmare for you to calculate it in order to measure it for a score. So do it as a formative thing. But if there is a tool or you find a solution, then this calculation, together with the calculation of the peer review, it can actually change the way that the IRAT and the TIRAT scores are calculated and makes it more transparent. There's a lot of literature in how you score and how you make kind of models for assessment of these scores and how they are, which is a different story altogether. But for the very basic, I think finding a way to balance it is good, because someone who is totally ignorant, at least they will still do something. They will put one there and they will take their luck, and then they realize, oh, I'm always the one that I'm not confident. I always place, let's say, 2 out of the 4 to the right answer, but I'm not confident. Why I'm not confident? Maybe I didn't pay attention and so on. And it is a formative process. It's quite good. Just one thing before we break. If TBL is introduced for the first time, and you are the one who's introducing it for the first time, my advice is that the first week of TBL is a TBL around TBL. So you give them, you develop this exact sequence, but about the benefits of doing TBL, what is an IRAT, what is a TIRAT, you give them a guide to study, so they at least use the methodology to learn about the methodology. Because if you just stand in front of them for 10 minutes and explain, I'm going to be doing TBL, TBL is IRAT, TIRAT, blah, blah, you don't need to worry. Give them a model, let them play. So the very basic would be have a guide. I'm going to send you electronically a Word version of the guides, which then you can use to copy and paste at least the images, and then you can do your own writings and you can customize it for your units. That will be the easiest for us to do. And then I will use a very quick 5 minutes IRAT, and it will be more about TBL stands for team-based learning, team-based, I don't know, like something stupid, whatever. And then questions around the benefit of TBL is in the TIRAT, IRAT application. So then you can spend time to have a good clarification session, because that will be a very powerful thing, to clarify why they are doing it and so on. Put questions that they also connected to the overall picture of the unit. If TBL only happens 3 times, you may have a question about TBL is used in this module to advance your collaborative skills, help you prepare for the final exam. Do this. Possibly it will be all 4, but what is the best choice? That clarifies. Instead of going there with another type of TBL, like a very easy concept or topic-based TBL that they still feel a bit unsure about. There's something? Yeah.
I've seen a few sites or Ifundi sites where lecturers actually say topic 0 or week 0 or something like. Maybe you can just explain where they actually do this whole clarification of the module, how it's used, the teaching learning strategy approach, etc. So I'm not sure what you call it. You also have in your module sites a introduction.
So for us, all modules at our university, they have to have the week 1 tutorial. That's how we call it. Week 1, it's actually week 0, but it's week 1 tutorial. And this is a tutorial about the process and the content. So we ask the students to read the guides, to read the assessments, the rubrics, and we give them questions, normally not in an IRAT, but it's a multiple choice. They do it, and then they come in the class and they clarify it. So there is no clear, this confusion will be there. Yeah? Still, they're going to come and ask week 3 and week 4, what is this? But at least you know that they managed to read the guide and they understand the basics of it. That's how we do. We also have something called the Kickstart. So our Kickstart is one very, once we come back, I'm going to show you an example, is online, is a preview of the module. So it is 2 minutes video of you telling them what you are doing in the module and how you're going to run it. Very nicely done. One quick quiz, which is 5 questions about the topic. One sample assignment and example answer of something, like here is a small essay and this is the type of writing, and then list of things they need to be doing in preparation. So if you do have study guides or skills units that they can go and attend, we ask them to do all an academic integrity module before they commence. So everybody, they need to go online and they can do a thing about plagiarism, paraphrasing. They cannot commence the course until they've done that. Is important. Yes, and this is 2 weeks before the unit, the module goes live. 2 weeks before, we open this preview. It's very well structured, I'm going to show you, and they have to complete it. It's quite good. You can put the TBL information also there, that's a TBL. Here is a video. We can show them a video of how does it feel and look, and smiley people. Use some of the existing ones, and it's quite a useful thing. It's been a very successful methodology, to be honest, especially with large 100 level, like year 1 students. They go. Comments?
You say that you'll give us the Word document of the TBL. Don't you also have like a kind of a bank of questions just for the TBL, Because that could also help us, since we are new into this, we might make a mess of it, and we really want them to understand the TBL before we move on to our own content. Yeah. That's possible.
We do have a number of give you this bank, and the guides are all online anyway, but that's for PDF. There's 7 guides that we develop, and I will send it with you. And the videos, feel free to use any of them because they're freely available. I will say, and then I'm taking now initiative, your center will have some people with media production, yeah? So when you run your TBL, and you know that it's running well, in weeks 3 or 4, call a crew to come and do a little footage for you, because then in 2 minutes, 3 minutes, you can use it next year to say that's how the team works, how does it feel, and you can, for your class, for your own concept. Yeah, they can zoom in and they can be that. That would be quite good. It's a quite good way. So we're gonna break now for how long? Half an hour. So it's 20:35. 10 past 1, we come here, and we are running until 6 tonight? No, 5. I don't. No? 3. So we are going to be until 3 again. Yeah, that's fine. So we have 2 important things left to do, but I also want to go through the questions. So we're going to now come back, and we will take any of these scenarios and some examples that I have, and we'll see if you had a fully online cohort that it will ever come face-to-face, what type of structure would you put online? So we're going to see a design of an online TBL, and what tools that you have available in your own thing we do. And then things that we think that they don't work online from a TBL point of view, what alternatives we can do by not having 100% TBL as a methodology, but maybe 90%. What alternatives can we do? And then the last one will be from the people interested in research in that space. Just a quick overview of what research has been done and what research we are conducting in our university and some findings. And if we are interested to team up and we can, like generate more interest in that space. That's where we are. Okay, thank you.
I need to take a group photograph, but I don't
yes.
want the traditional standing in a group. So can you just, as you are, and maybe stand on that side. Panos, can you come and stand here?
1, 2, all good. All right. All right, well, welcome back. We have an hour and a half to complete this part. Just before I continue a bit with the online part, I mentioned this Kickstart idea that is actually an award-winning process for Macquarie across Australia, and other universities now are producing it. So a Kickstart looks a bit like that from the point of view of the students. Now, not in a vertical, normally should be more of a, imagine like it covers the whole page of the unit that they access. But so it will be, typically it will have a welcome video, the unit guide, by unit it's module, don't forget in our case, yes, so a module guide. They will have some sort of we call it an expert voice, but it will be normally a past student with a couple of tips of how to study the particular course. Or it might be, if it is a professional course, a tip from an industry, a pharmacist saying, welcome, this unit is very important because it will prepare you for your management skills later in the real life. Little voices for them. Then normally is a challenge, and by challenge we give them, it could be a very quick quiz or a very little piece of writing, something to challenge their either academic skills or understanding about the unit. Most of the time it's a quiz, but we call it a challenge for them to be able to do it.
Challenge about, or quiz about?
The way that you run the module. So if you do TBL, you'll have a video, I will say a welcome video, I will play one, that's not from a TBL though, that says welcome, that's me, that's the unit, my module, what I do. In the unit guide, they will see all the information about the learning outcomes, the assessments, and the information. And then in the expert, you might have the video clip that you recorded this year for people doing TBL so they can see how it feels. And then in the challenge, it will be a quiz about TBL. That could be like a straightforward way. I'm going to try to see if this is going to play. I'm going to try with the video just to show you, but it's very, and I'm going to show you two extremes. One video that is nice, professionally made, but within our own premises, and one kind of extravaganza video that it cost us $20,000 to produce, but there you are. The guy had the money, so he paid for it. Yes, sorry. Let me.
MAS 104 Australian Media is the foundation unit for media studies at Macquarie University. As you can probably tell from the name, it's a wide-ranging look at Australian media, both historically and in contemporary contexts. In this unit, we learn how Australian media helps us to learn about ourselves and about each other. This is quite a significant conversation because, as you will see, we learn about places we've never been to and people we've never met, to the kinds of communities that media allows us to imagine. Australian media industries are in a period of rapid transformation and dynamic growth. Things like how we listen to the radio, watch television, watch films, or read the newspaper have been radically changed by the internet and digital technologies. Yet these cultural practices remain as important and beloved as they are today as they were decades ago. So in this unit, we consider how industries have had to respond to and adapt to these challenges. So, from MAS 104 Australian Media, students will learn some invaluable and practical skills for navigating contemporary media landscapes. Firstly, you'll gain some insight into how industries are responding and adapting to challenges and opportunities of the 21st century. And secondly, you will gain a historical appreciation.
So, why someone will do a media studies. Sorry guys, a media studies thing. Now let's see a similar introductory video for one of our units called Australians at War, our MPs. That's a fully online video, a fully online unit. The students, they never come in the class. We have around 200 of those studying it. He overdid it, 7 minutes introductory video, but that's expensive. You'll see why. There's a war. Okay, we run it through the Open Universities Australia, which is our own platform for online courses. But it shows a bit the possibility. I'm not suggesting, but you might be able to do something like that without the complexity. One day. But it's been tremendously, the retention was amazing. I mean, students, they really buy it. That was expensive production. Something happened between Yes. He traveled to Gallipoli. I'm pretty sure I'm going to put the 2019 version. These are all the versions I have access to. Hopefully the sound is all right. But I'm going to just play quickly. So there are, he blended a few of the things. He presented the space in which we're going to be learning, the class. So they know what is blended learning, how they will learn, then how they will apply their knowledge with the portfolio. He made a connection for every single task and why it's there in a production. It was very good production. But that serves around a fully face-to-face cohort, a fully online cohort, and a blended cohort. They're all been taught through one mechanism of things. So she had to do that. Yeah, sound? Okay. All right, I'll switch now with this. So what I'm going to do now is talk a bit about the online aspect of TBL. Yeah, and as I present a few cases here, just looking. There is also one guide for online TBL. It has a lot of information that will be emailed to you. I don't know if you already received an email with a PowerPoint for today, but we'll make sure you haven't checked yet. But that was a guide that I asked because it was like 30 pages, and we said we don't print it because it's a bit of a lot of papers. But actually, let me see if I can find it online. It is a 2018 on off team-based learning. Yeah, so there is this guide here, but you will receive a copy of it if you cannot download it. It takes a bit of time. With our internet. It's called Off to Online TBL White Paper. It's been published literally, I think, in November, a few months ago, and it is the best guide that exists at this stage from the company or the organization that's called team-based learning.org that they put together to signify the challenges and the issues around PDF. So it's good to have. But they do have a very good list that I want us to use today. Let me see. Oh, okay, that's over here. Okay. So it tells you a bit who co-authored it. It is a lengthy document. The best practice for online TBL, the orientations, and so on. So you will see here. And then they have summarized for the online space what are some principles that they recommend. And I think it's going to be down to us to see whether these principles can be implemented with the tools that we have. The limitation, of course, of the guide is that they don't have an online TBL tool that they recommend. So there is no tool out there apart from a very expensive tool that the University of Singapore has developed, but costs around $50 per student per term. It's almost forbidden for most of us to be able to do it. I'm going to play the video of them just to see what they do. And then I'm going to show you how did we set up using our basic learning management system. But if we go through some of this information here, you will see that some of the principles are exactly the same, okay? So provide student-specific information about the course, formulate teams and practice readiness as well as an application, develop social presence with instructor and individual student instructions. That is the big additional thing about the online TBL. So when the students, they arrive in the online console, assuming, let's take one of the examples. I don't know which one, so I will take yours over here. So the big question for you will be in the online space, how you will introduce TBL. Will you introduce it as a methodology that runs throughout the module, and then in every week or every topic that you introduce, there's going to be a TBL information? Or will you say that the TBL is just one-off thing that you're going to be doing and has its own folder with all the information out there? So these two different designs. One design, imagine, so in a typical good online design, the students, they arrive, they will be welcome to Unit 1105. This module is about online TBL, if that's a topic that we're saying about. And you will be studying here. Here is one video that I highly recommend. So talk to your colleagues in the center to develop 2 minutes, 1 minute, 3 minutes, a video of you telling them why TBL is introduced in that module. Emphasizing from the beginning that that is, so we're talking about fully online, yeah? Face to face, you're gonna do it. Then the students, they would like to receive, I can imagine, the module guide. In the module guide, they need to be absolutely clear how TBL is playing. Is it part of the assessment? Is it part of the learning and teaching activities? Is it every week? Is it week 3, 7, and 9, and all of them? And then I would highly recommend that you also run either a discussion forum early on or a quiz that students, they will try to view all their anxieties. Any questions? I don't understand this. Am I supposed to do that before the class, and so on? That will generate a lot of things. So going back to the Kickstart, having a preview, if you can do that, a small preview of your course in a space. I don't know how that could work in your LMS. I'm just thinking whether, how far before the, so your course starts, let's say, February 2020, when the online module will be open for the students? The week before they start?
Once they're registered.
Okay.
So the moment they are registered, they have access. So
Okay.
probably there's nothing going on yet before
Okay.
the module starts. But
Great.
once-
So I will say that in that case, you may want to start in the module that you have, and you have this space. You can hide the rest, and you can have that one block of your online space that has your video, the guide, what is new about this delivery, and a very basic quiz or a discussion. If it's a discussion, though, it's a commitment from you to be there prior to the commencement of your teaching load to do discussion. I personally say have a quiz, and then you can take the discussion as you go. 3, 4 simple things. Video, I show you this. Believe me, you can take your iPhone or any mobile in a nice background of your logo. If it is 1 minute, just welcome. My name is Panos. I will be your facilitator for this. This year, in particular, I'm going to be trying a methodology called TBL. It will comprise of you coming to class online, doing that. So please, the important thing for you online, guys, is management, time management. The TBL will require a sequence, which is perhaps different to what you are used to. I'm going to do everything over the weekend. Yeah? And we're going to come to the questions about the TRATs and how this can work. So that would be one advice that we can give. So over here then, they develop the social presence. The very first thing you will do will be to have this social image of you, like your video of something, so they can feel that there's someone behind the screen. And secondly, some sort of communication. Online discussion could be, I think that's the most dominant, to introduce themselves and so on. Then is a question about how are you going to structure the whole thing so you can structure everything in the space like a TBL sequence. Yeah. So instead of having weekly, is it weekly that you can have on Sakai? Do you have week 1, week 2, week 4? Can you have topics or unit? So if it is unit, and assuming that you'll be running TBL throughout, you may want to have, obviously, unit 1, the title of the unit, and then over there will be, that's the unit, that's the learning outcome for the unit, not the module, but in that particular unit, or the big outcome, if I was taking our colleagues here, that they put being able to do this big picture, then they said, if you remember, that they can break it down to more these specific things, which is in this topic or unit, we're identifying the differences. To do that, here is now a block that says preparation. And in the preparation, you have things. So I'm going to show you the example from the medical guys just to have an idea. Although that was a blended, but now we are running it also. So they go here, welcome, Macquarie, MD. There's announcements, there's a general Q&A forum that they can ask and they can take questions. Overview, curriculum overview, recommended textbook list, library textbook list, and so on. Then information about the assessments. And then directly go into the information about the TBL, which is, that's the information about your units, your teams, because you have to have formulating and so on. Okay, how that goes. A little video, what is TBL? The video I played yesterday. So they know, and a TBL student guide, which is developed just for them, not the design guide, the student guide. Yeah. Yeah, we can. I'll email you all the guides just to see an idea. TBL in a nutshell. How does TBL learning work? Yeah, it has all this kind of information. What are the advantages? So you know why we are doing it. And the fine prints and bibliography. Very quick. Very quick. So then, you may want to use this as a Word document and add things. And instead of having a generic question here, you can replace it with a sample question from the content that you're going to be using yourself. So they get the picture a bit better. Because this is a question about TBL. So it depends what you're going to be doing as a preparation, yeah? But how does it go? Yes, yeah, we'll do that. And then, this is now, keep in mind, this is a model where TBL is an activity within a bigger picture thing, which is called the human body.
So in a week or a topic?
Yes. So it's not the TBL topics every week, but the TBL is one of the things they're going to be doing in that. So the students, they know that in preparation for that, they need to study the human body, which is a video that I played earlier that shows the different things. Then they have the resources. There is an anatomical terminology, there is this, there's the lecture. That normally is going to be a recorded lecture they're going to play. Then is the TBL, where they have their instructions for the FAT, and then they have also their IRATs and TRATs they can play. Okay? What's that?
Why is the application first?
Sorry, this is a blended, that's a blended version. So they do the IRATs and the TRATs in the class. Yeah? Yeah, 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 in that. But the, I need to go to the online because this one will be FAT online, but for a face-to-face. So it is just the instruction slide. So that will be.
Outside of class. But isn't it done online?
So this one is the human chronology, focus applications. Okay. Identify the stages and events that occur for Annabelle's initialization through the complete healing of the wound. Consider the following questions. Create a timeline or a flow diagram of the events you try to do. It's a good time of resource. So that's the FAT. Yeah. Yes. And then they go online. They post their posters. So, for example, they put it there and they post it. Now, you could use Padlet. You could use an online tool. These guys, they were doing it in preparation for the colloquium to post it online, but they could meet face-to-face. So obviously they met somewhere and they do part of the preparation. So that was a FAT application. Okay, and then they took a photo, they put it online using the tool. Sorry, I'm going back. Where am I? Okay, here. All of them are here, all the different groupings, and everybody can see everybody's posters in preparation so they get ideas. And then they come in the class, in the clinical colloquium, and they do the one that I showed you earlier on about the particular case with the YouTube video and so on. And they repeat, they do a similar thing in the class. Yeah?
Is it the class then the application, or is this the application?
This is a model application that they do as a preparation.
Still,
Yes, still in the preparation. Yeah. So it's before you come for the colloquium. This is a model FAT that you'll face. It will still be about laceration or whatever is the thing. That was a different about Annabelle and different patient. It's a slim FAT. You do the key things, but then in the actual scenario, they were given more challenging things, which the only way to address the more difficult scenario was to answer correctly the IRAT and the TRATs. Yeah. So here was kind of a very quick one. Here is the thing, what type of questions would you ask here and so on. And they were playing around. I'm going to go now to a real fully online. What I like about this is the clearance of the design. So I can imagine that it's a blended. So you have online lessons, preparation. You have resources, and you have a team-based learning preparation type of section that you could take a slide, and then you can do your posters. And then you come face-to-face, and then you repeat that part in face-to-face as part of the colloquium. If that was to be turned fully online, so the students, they will never come face-to-face, what you will have here, it will be your IRAT, then with a big question mark, a version of the TRAT, because it's online and how we're going to do it. Then they can still get the FAT in a PDF, and then they can still either work on a Google Docs or on a Padlet or anything in order to construct that poster that they've done. There's a lot of freely available tools that you can draw and do things together. And what I would add here, it will be also an online discussion forum, which will be for discussion, elaboration, or you can have one discussion forum here that is for clarifications. So you did quiz 1, IRAT. You've done quiz 2, TIRAT. Normally you will have this open for a period of time. At Macquarie, OUA, which is our Open University Australia, wants things to be open for a period of a week. So students, they can decide to do it anytime during the week. That provides the biggest challenge, which is the TIRAT, when the TIRAT happens. So I'm going to show you how we modified the TIRAT to become more of a TIRAT/clarification session at once, where the biggest thing was actually to discuss their problems from the IRATs. So the TIRAT is actually what? Is an opportunity to remember your questions and have a conversation. It's the conversation that matters. It's not so much the quiz. So the IRAT quiz is identical to the TIRAT. So you take your IRAT, you make a comment in an online discussion about what answer did you give. You set the tool, and that's important to do it with the support, that they only see responses from other students once they have posted theirs. And that's the tricky thing. So everybody needs to go there and give their answer, what they believe to be the answer, before they see what other people say. And then automatically runs the thing. Oh, so you put B for that, and I put A for that. What is your reasoning? And you as the facilitator, you say, I'm going to be online between Thursday and Friday that week, and I will offer my input in the clarification. I will try to clarify misconceptions. And that runs well without having to repeat the TIRAT as a team. Yeah. And in that case, we remove the TIRAT score from the overall calculation of the thing. So I'm going to show you the example exactly as runs in our big history. Okay, I'll come back to that because there's a few nice design features. Let's go to the latest one, 2019. That's the live one. That actually runs as we speak. Okay, introduction to big history. It's an integrated one. It's fully online as well, yes. So keep in mind that the students are assessed on the basis of 3 short essays that they are their thesis statement about the Big Bang theory that we discussed earlier. So all the TBL philosophy here is working to support the development of these statements that they submit independently. They call them synoptic essays and so on. Online participation, individual participation plus 2 hours of online work, 25% of your final mark, 10% for the TIRAT, and 15% for the application. So they calculate the discussion that takes place in the TIRAT, and the outcome of it becomes the application. So I'm going to tell you exactly what I mean by that, so you can see here. So the students, they go. Also, they have the reflection that we asked, their personal learning journal, which is about what did they learn that is important and so on in that design. And the group discussion forum only to externals, only for the online. So the online people, they see just the online aspect of it. Let me go to one of the weeks. Okay, so week 1, big history and the Big Bang. That's fully online. The students, they go online, they know there's a week 1, preparation, prepare. You want to be preparation, whatever we use in the pre-readiness, give it a name so they know that they cannot attempt any of the IRATs or the activities unless they've done that. So they have week 1 readings and videos. So that will be an example of a resource they have to study. Let me see that if that will play, or if there's anything without sound.
Macquarie is the international home of big history, and this is its flagship unit. While most history classes look in detail at a particular country, theme, or period, this unit examines history at the largest scale possible. It begins with the origins of the universe and goes on to tell a series of
So that's a bit of building the social aspect.
Hi, I'm David Baker, and welcome to MHIS 115, which will teach you the history of the universe from the Big Bang to modern day. Going through 13.8 billion years in the space of 13 weeks can seem daunting, though you'll find that there are patterns that unite the story from end to end and boil down all the details.
Two introductory videos from the people facilitating the online space, that they do it, and then one 17 minutes video that is the introductory concepts to the first TBL. Yeah? And then I'll come to you.
Bang. We start with the tiny speck that flickered into existence about 13.8 billion years ago. Within this speck was all matter, energy, space, and time. There was nothing outside this speck. Not even empty space. There was nothing but the speck. If you're imagining an ultra-hot speck in the middle of a black void, you're halfway there. There was no void, just the speck. The speck was smaller than one of the 7 billion atoms that make up your body, smaller than the nucleus of one of those atoms, smaller than a proton in the nucleus of that atom, and smaller than the quarks that make up that proton, and many times smaller still. Where did this speck come from? Given that time and space didn't exist.
Okay, you got a bit of picture. He has a way of presenting. Go on.
I sometimes see, I'm just wondering about good practice, that there is a video and then there's a script underneath or a PDF document with a script. What do you think is best? Is it best to do it that way with the text underneath the video, or maybe a downloadable PDF that they can also look at?
I mean, if you have this, automatically you have a transcript. So it's quite easy for you to have the transcript. But we assume that students that they're actually viewing that, they are viewing it from a device. So from accessibility point of view, always we need to have that option. So our regulation says that the videos, that they are not so much the welcoming one, but the ones that have content, they need to have subtitles.
What do you get that subtitles in?
There is an automated tool that we use, which takes 80% of the job if your accent is kind of understandable, and I think you wouldn't have a problem. I sometimes have problems. And then, well, actually, I think we are using the Dragon speech, which is actually the speech, yeah, which is the recognition. But every university has an adaptive learning technology center, yes? You don't? So if a student...
The disability unit, that's what we call it.
Yes, yeah.
Yes, well, they do it, but for their students. But
To be honest, nowadays, if you open this in your YouTube, YouTube has an embedded thing that they will do that for you with a big. My attitude is that you will do that, you have to have this, and then if you have it, it doesn't hurt to actually have a script that you can download. But for I don't want the students to download the script and read just the script, because the beauty of the video, it has images, it has animations at some point, they need to connect them. Yeah, question from?
No, I just want to say, what you can do is you can also contact the people from language services who do the that specific whatever they do. Because they can also help you with that. There are actually free software that you can use to do that. We don't have a policy to say that you actually have to do it like that. I can just speak from experience, and I know what you say, Panos, that it's really great to do that if you have something like that. But with online learning, I find that if you have a transcript that is detached from your video, especially if you want to go back and you need that transcript for your for content learning, you know, if you have to write a test or whatever, it is really cumbersome to watch the video again and again and again. So if you have the transcript and you can go back to your PDF so that you can look at the content that you have if you want to search for information, it's much better for learning to have your transcript removed from your video. I'm experiencing that at the moment where I'm doing online learning and I have to write tests and I need the script so that I can go back to the content. I don't want to watch the video again, and I don't want to listen to the guy again and again. And I can tell you from experience from the students, you know, sometimes not all your students like you as much as what you think they like you. They don't want to see you, and they don't want to hear you. And that's what we found with the audio feedback. You know, where you provide audio feedback. Sorry, I just want to say this, audio feedback on your tests and on your assignments or whatever. Some of the students said, I hear him in class all the time. I don't want to hear him, you know, providing feedback, audio feedback again. So we just have to take that into consideration, that if you do that, don't do that with all your videos, that you do have different ways in which you provide feedback, because that also makes a difference. Now, students get so fed up with your voice, your face, your whatever, the same way of doing things, that you do have a variety, but that you have to have some other kind of transcript, whether it's subtitles or whether you have a PDF. If you don't know how to do it, it is much easier if you do type your script, that whatever you're going to say, you do your video from there and have it as a separate one, than having to do, you know, a subtitle or whatever, if you don't know how to do it. But if you have a free tool, and if you don't know who to contact, you can contact, what's her name on our campus, because we're working with her in a project at the moment. No, I forgot. From languages, I will send you a name. With Kobus Olivier in the project. Yeah, no, the lady in languages. Oh, no, I forgot her name. But I can send you the name so that you can also ask her, because she put us in contact with a tool that's actually a free tool for subtitling, yes.
I'm going to show you quickly another. This is how we instruct students, that's 100 level, first time students, in our archaeology unit, to focus with their preparation. So that's a video, which is here. It has the audio as a downloadable file. It has the slides with the comments and the transcript as an annotated file. So the students, they can play the video. Let me see if I can do it here.
Welcome to AIS 170, Introduction to Egyptian Archaeology. During the discovered ancient Egypt, this unit with the development of ancient Egyptian society from the prehistoric period to the end of the New Kingdom.
So they do that, but online learners asked to take notes. And as they watch, open a Word file, document the ideas, set your file so they have similar format, blah, 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 and then they can submit it online, and the lecturer will read and take some misconceptions and work with them. Yes, so audio here. They can play it and then actually can download by doing the right thing, so that should be the case. And which is going to play, and this one should be the slides, hopefully, when this thing goes, it will come down. And the video is over here, extension video lectures. All of them, yeah. It takes a bit of time to load. But you can have here, I don't know how. I wonder whether this is the transcript as well or just the slides. I'll see now. And that. So actually here is the slides that he used with all the images and the audio that they will have. But you could use something like that. I'm just going back. Am I on? Yeah. It's for that.
Okay, so the person to contact for your subtitles in your videos is Estie Juffer Jordan. She's on the Val campus, so you can just dot on her name. To provide you with the name of the tool for subtitling.
Ideas of how videos can be produced and what sort of instructions you can give to students in order to help them focus with the preparation. And the one from history, it was not, sorry, from archaeology, was not TBL, it was case. It was actually an object case-based learning, but they had to prepare. In the TBL, I'm going back to our 2019 version, which is here. Big history, the Big Bang, preparation. Lectures part 1, lectures part 2, the videos. Some questions for them to focus. Okay, individual preparation to externals. Consider the questions about the Big thing, and they can play with a model FAT. So this is actually a model application. So keep in mind that the FAT for this activity is a thesis statement. So part of the preparation, they give them video, a model activity with gaps. So they need to find the keywords that they defend the thesis. Okay, that's how they do it. Then they have the readiness activities. So they have the IRATs and the TRATs in that case. And then they have the application activity, which for the face-to-face guys is an artifact creation. So actually they do create, again, like a concept map of type of thing. For our online, they are fully online. They have a discussion forum. And the discussion forum is very busy. But that's part of that. So they give their thesis statement, they write them, they receive feedback, so they actually work with each other in order to collaborate on how to write the thesis. But then as a group, they need to come with one thesis statement that they believe is their thesis statement for the, you remember the FAT was, what was the big turning point in the Homo sapiens, whether it was the fire, the fact that we had a lot of progression in the brain, the language, and so on. All of them, they're in the videos. Here, they just unlock and they just tell us their arguments for all this kind of stuff. At the end of the day, they will have to choose the one answer, write their defense, and that's it. But then they have their individual essay, which they have to rewrite a statement thesis for another argument that they've done. So they only see their own ones. So face-to-face, they do it like this. Online, they do it like this. But from the processes, the IRATs are the ones that they take the points, so they get 10% for completing every week, whatever it is there, the IRAT. And 15% for completing the online discussion and the application thing. So they get nothing for the TRAT because the TRAT is actually meaningless for the online person because it is embedded into the application through the discussion. That's how we do it. We tried to do TRATs last year, and it was that kind of agony of, so it was a discussion forum that they have to agree on the answer, and then just one individual from the team to go and complete individually the TRAT. And the feedback was, but it's identical, it makes no sense. We know we like the discussion around the IRAT, but why you have to go back to submit a TRAT? And we said, yes, we don't see a point. So the big change of thinking for the fully online is that we sacrifice not the discussion that takes place, but the need to have to resubmit the quiz. So we remove this away, and we say that is part of your sequence for the application. IRAT, so the sequence is IRAT, blah, 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 blah. You don't know your scores. You go to an online discussion forum, and you say, these are my answers. You submit them, and only see the other people's answer once you submit yours. So collectively, all 30, 50 people, whatever they are there, they're going to show their answers. The lecturer says, I'm going to have a quick look to see whether you're in the right track, and on a very particular period, and normally you will say, on Thursday and Friday afternoon, I'm going to be checking this and provide some clarifications, but also each of you can help each other and defend your point. And then you have until Monday to complete your application, which is write your statements. So if we go here, we go online, and we have identify the common problems, the communication problems that they have there, develop a strategy to overcome the particular problem, and role play. So in an online scenario, what I would have done is a little video scenario, a role play scenario between you and a patient, like simulated scenario, where you can identify what the problems are. And then I can have an online discussion forum in the teams that you have already selected. And each team, they will have to identify in that video what's happening. Before they do that, they've done their RATs. Only the IRAT. They don't need to do the TRAT, because this is part of the team. Okay? That's the big difference. Having said that, people, they told me, oh, youngsters nowadays, they are all on the instant messaging and Twitter and whatever. An alternative way is that you do your IRAT. You do have a space like a WhatsApp or whatever, that the chat room that everybody is connected, and they get the beeping. And as the people, they complete their IRATs, they comment in that kind of instant messaging space. And people, as they do it, almost they do their TRAT together remotely as they do it in the time. I haven't tried myself. I'm confident that at this stage I prefer them to do the IRAT, post it in a discussion forum, and actually have a conversation, because the reason they do it online is they want flexibility. They want to do it in their own time. And this allows them to do it in their own time. Yeah, the microphone, yes.
The answers. I know you said that the IRATs, they don't get the answers. For the TRATs, do they get the answers, and when? After they've discussed? Because, I mean, if we do it online now, we did it here, and you, after everybody said the answers, you gave us the answers. So in a normal, even a class setup, but you do the TRAT online, when do you get the answers? Or in the online version, do they get the answers after the discussion? Because I think it's important that they have the answers before going to the final task so they can learn.
Good point. In that scenario, as part of the clarification process. So the lecturer says that you do your IRAT, you post your answers and your confusions. Everybody does that, and then obviously you can comment to each other. And then one of the two, either David or the other guy, they come online, they have a look, they do a bit of clarification, and then they reveal the answers to them. So no appeal? Well, not appeal. It's all within that discussion. Yeah. In the medical thing, when they do the mock online thing, they have a folder that once they have done the discussion, so once you have contributed your point, then opens up the file. So you condition the file to say, once you contributed to the TRAT discussion, you have also access to the sample answers. and then you can use them as a way. Other tools, I don't know if you have access to VoiceThread, recordings, this type of things. Are we using VoiceThread?
We can use it.
Yeah. That's VoiceThread is what I'm thinking for my own unit for next year. VoiceThread is a video and voice-based discussion, which will make the actual TRAT a more meaningful and faster activity, which means that there's going to be still a discussion. They will click here, they will record their view, their argument, their appeal as a recording. Someone else will read it, and there will be actually a voice conversation between them that is going to speed up the process from that point of view. And then I will step in and just have a video clarification in the voice thread that I will say, I watch all of your conversations and all your arguments. You are in the right direction, but I still think for the FAT, you don't know enough about the concept X. So as a team, you still, I see that you did not come in an agreement. You are far away. So instant messaging and video and audio discussion will enhance that dramatically in a positive way. But until it's there and it's stable, the online discussion and then removing the artificiality of having a TRAT being submitted by an online learner independently outside is the best win situation you can have, if it makes sense. So that's how these guys are running it. I'm going back a bit to the structure. And very important, he added an additional stage to the TBL, which is the consolidation stage, which is the reflection. And the reflection is very much around either the critical incident, so what was important in that sequence that helped you learn, who helped you learn, who confused you or what confused you, and then you create this kind of consolidation. So almost the way that they promote it online is prepare, apply, consolidate. Yeah?
So the consolidation is a reflection on the activity
and the
content or the experience of the
both. So there will be questions. Let me actually see. Okay. It's not restricted for me at the moment. But it will be, did I give you a template of the critical incident? No. Okay, I'll do that now. There you go. And we will also, I think I have it as a PDF that you can set it online. It's a variation of this questionnaire. So it will be at what time or what moment in this TBL activity did you feel most engaged? Oh, the most engaged will be when I did my discussion about my IRAT, because I got a lot of misconceptions. Or it was the clarification that the academic gave on Friday afternoon. Or it was the application itself that I had there and do it. And then it goes down to talk about, do you feel more disengaged and so on. Given this is online learners, the more information you collect about how they experience the TBL, the more improvements you can do. If they say they need more clarification, you can give more clarification. It's asynchronous. You cannot really, unless you open up a big dialogue with them and you allow them to do Skype and you want to do synchronous things, that is also possible. You could have a TRAT on a fixed day. 7 o'clock in the evening on Wednesday. So you need to do your IRAT on Monday, Tuesday, individually. You don't know your scores. On Wednesday afternoon is going to be a TRAT conversation plus clarification, followed immediately, live. And then after that, the FAT will open. So Monday, Tuesday, expectation for IRAT. Wednesday, discussion face-to-face, well, online, not face-to-face. And then 2 days and potentially the weekend for the FAT. All of the students, especially in our case, all of the open universities, but the reason we don't go to your university is we cannot be there at 7 o'clock on Wednesday. So we discussed a lot. What if you have some of them there and not, then becomes a case of equity and equality, like if you, some of them, they come and they do it, we give up. In your case, it might work. Actually, students that might say, we can come. Our students online are mostly the students that they work, and the reason they don't come to the uni is because they work and they can, or have families. They cannot really go at 6 or 7 o'clock and do it.
But the group, isn't the FAT still group?
The FAT is still group in an online discussion.
Again, a discussion, okay.
A discussion, wiki, Padlet, whatever you want it to be. So a wiki is another type of online application. For example, if the application is to write a thesis statement, you can have a wiki tool. The wiki tool has the beauty of tracking every single individual, what they type and what they delete. So as a team, you need to construct one statement. But I want to see evidence of people writing and expanding that statement together. And then you give some marks based on that, plus the peer review that you can do. Padlet could be one. Another online quiz. Keep in mind that if we go in the scenario, I think you guys had a scenario where you give them the choice, the FAT also could be a quiz, plus then something that they have to write, an individual piece. We can be quite creative. Make sense a bit? So the most problematic thing you will have is the TIRAT being submitted by an individual who is not part of a physical team. It's totally artificial, it never works. So you remove the TIRAT altogether, because the TIRAT is an IRAT, but in a conversation. So not to confuse them, you say you've done your IRAT, we discuss our IRAT scores. That's so we avoid this kind of thing, which will have a bit of you have to change your guide to reflect that change. So here, you will see our face-to-face students. They do IRAT TBL, TIRAT, because they come in the class and they do it. All internal. Our external groups, they do just the IRAT, and then they move into the discussion forum. That's how it works. I have access for everything, that's why, but when it says restricted, so our external students, they will see only the things that they are mentioned external. So they won't see IRATs and other things. Yeah? So the version of the, and I think that's the same with Sakai. Yeah. So the version of what they look here looks very much smaller. It's customized. All the other is hidden to them. The academic, though, has access. That's because at Macquarie we made a decision whether you run online or face-to-face, you run one version. You don't have different units flying around. It's integrated. You design for everybody, and then you condition it. That's how we go. So that, yeah, and goes. And that's how it goes. Week 2, prepare, apply. So that's a model, yeah? Prepare, apply, consolidate. They get this through the video. That's the model we're using. That's what we do. And they go through that process in the online space.
Another way it's intended is before class, in class, after class.
Yes.
That's also a model.
Yes. Talking about blended, I'm going to show you a quick example of another blended, and then I'm just worrying a bit about the time. Medi. So that's a blended version that at the moment does not have TBL, but we are aiming to introduce TBL, but shows a bit. So again, a video. The assessments. I'm going to use this tomorrow. For people who are going to come tomorrow, I'm going to use this as an example of portfolio, because 40% of the assessment here is portfolio in the online space. And then every week they have a video. I think that's a video of me, if I'm right. Yeah. So that's me introducing to reflect they do that, tutorial and preparation, very clear what they have to do before they come to the class, watch the videos on reflection, do the online quiz, read the recommending thing, complete. It is actually a TBL, but it's, we don't name it. Yeah. So watch the video, do your IRAT. Read the recommended thing, then go and complete another kind of IRAT, and then do a TRAT, which is share and discussion forum. Like, tell us what the problems are from your IRATs. And then they have additional videos, that's the reflective quiz, that's the online discussion, and so on. Concepts of communication, that's what they do. Tutorial preparation, watch, read, choose, respond. And works really, really well. So watch, read, participate. Depends. So we use active verbs to tell them exactly what they're supposed to be doing in preparation. Terminology and so on. But all of them, they have an introductory video for all the concepts. I mean, that's a good activity, see if it's going to work. This is an activity that we used to do face-to-face, and now we moved fully online. Face-to-face, we have a private hospital, so we used to send the students in the private hospital and do an observation of errors that they might exist in a room. Normally, we'll set up a simulated room that there will be errors. For example, there might be medical records left on the table. There might be a bit of water on the side that no one, like all the incidents, there will be. But with the increased numbers from 60 to 240, we cannot now occupy the hospital for 240 students. So we moved this fully online for the students. It looked a bit like that. You have gone to the hospital to visit an elderly relative who is recovering from a medical procedure. They are somewhat failed and become disoriented. Even in the room, your family member is resting. You feel something is not right. You have just 1 minute to take this to watch the scene, and then they go online and they complete pretty much an IRAT. Okay, so me as a person, I can go there. All right, I can. So what's happening here? You can witness this hot thing left on the table. There is a medical record over there. Now this thing starts beeping over there. Something is happening. Maybe the mask has fallen. Like anything that can go wrong, it can be there in that place. Okay, so they watch this. There are 11 errors, 6 of them very obvious, and 5 of them, they really need to know the detail behind it.
It looks like a South African hospital.
Yes, anyway. Yeah. We also gave them a nice Macquarie t-shirt to wear, so it can be a bit branded, but that's okay. So that's an example of how an activity that used to be yes. And then they will go to the online discussion and they will run it. Okay? Just give you examples of how we lay out things. Online activities, essential readings, they are all labeled. Videos, professors, what is morality, pre-readings, videos, thought experiments, philosophical experiments online that they do. Yeah, all these kind of things. And these are clinical students, year 1. They just arrived. Evidence-based practice, evidence-based, and then integrity, and they go all the way down to so on. Okay? Let me close this. Let me close this. And going back to the ads. So the guide to which I'm going to give you access to, it will say that the 3 most important things for the online TBL is the social presence. You really need to find a way to be there, and videos is the best way to be there. The second is that you have to simplify the process and remove the artificial aspects of the TBL, for example, the TRATs they recommend, because they're not part of it, and enhance as much as you can the communication between people. There's no point of them doing the 2 quizzes. That's the tricky thing. Question?
I just want to know, the online has now these 3 new components. How does it affect the copyright methodology? Or have they adapted it? Is it somebody's new method? Because what stops a person from adapting the current methodology and rethinking the current, I'm talking about the original copyright methodology, or is this one now also copyrighted on? I just want to understand to what extent can you start deviating and it still is TBL?
That's good. There is no methodology, TBL methodology, that is copyrighted or approved. So what this organization that has the copyright of the TBL has done, they consolidated from people, they tried different methods, and I think 17 authors that they try, and they came with a set of recommendations that if you follow, so these are the principles. So they don't have a sequence, but they have set of, do you have social presence? Yes. They don't care how you're gonna do it, but as long as you have it. Do you still have an application and a type of quiz RAT? Yes. So when you go through that document, there's a set of principles, but then you can make the decision. So we made the decision to do it in that way. I'm now developing my own version for 1,000 plus students next year. My version will be fully online and fully face-to-face, both. And I will use the application activity and the IRAT as the driving forces. And then I'm going to try with some sort of a social voice thread. Let's see what's going to be, something that brings my voice and their voices, like this element of TBL, which is a collaboration and how you influence on a tool. If I'm adventurous enough, I might try something on social media, because social media will be another way of doing it, like having students instantly commenting on that. You might actually want to have a TBL tweet type of thing, that they instantly commenting on other people's views about this. But I'm still evolving myself. Keep in mind, I cannot afford to go online for 1,000 students, or how many are going to be there, and read 10 messages from each of them. So I say to them that I will look quickly at your scripts of your IRATs, so I know who is struggling. I will have a look at your discussion. I'm not going to comment to individual discussions, and I'm going to make a clarification intervention. My clarification intervention could be a video message to everybody. I can record myself and say, from the IRATs, it seems the 3 most common errors are this, this, and this. From the TIRAT discussions, by resembling a number of them, I can see that you are discussing this and this and this, but no one has addressed that topic. That is very important for the application thing that will open up that week. We are talking about 2 hours minimum face-to-face. I will say 1 week minimum in the online space. There is no way you can run a cycle of TBL in 3 days. No. Unless your students are doing online without having any other commitments. The only reason they do it online is because they don't like it. But they do it online because they have commitments. Work, family, they need to take into account the weekends. The weekend is where most of the application activities will be working from that point of view. Okay? Yes. Where's the?
Then I saw that you guys use Moodle and not Sakai. But what I wondered is a practicality. Can you maybe just show us where that grading thing is, so that I know what it's called on Moodle, so that I can check whether it's available on Sakai?
It's called, the grading thing called Gradebook.
No, yeah, but the way you distribute points. Because that's the one that I don't know. Is it called split points? Because if I say split points in Moodle for Sakai, then...
I will check it for you.
Okay,
You go to the gradebook.
And figure it out. Okay.
Do you have gradebook?
We do have a gradebook, but it's just that setting that and it might not be in Ifundi, but it might be available in Sakai. So then we can ask them to embed it or put it in. Do you know what it is?
So the quiz gives percentage to the gradebook. That's how it works.
Yes, but
you
it's...
can say that it's 100%. Finish with that. I'm going to quickly go to see from the medical ones how they do. But I know that they put a percentage to the quiz and a point, and that they have a formula that calculates on gradebook.
Yes, but it's the option that you can
Have the four things. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's the one. Okay. That's fine. We'll look for that. Okay. How are we getting on with time? 2:35. Okay. All right. I'm going to close a bit these ones. Just a bit of a wrap-up theory in terms of research, what's happening in that space. In the slides, you will all get a copy with at least 2 pages of references that you can use if you want to. And that's important for us to know, all the literature that talks about outcomes of TBL, they refer to it as a methodology that is around active learning. Either a methodology that activates students to come to the class. It's about teamwork, it's about professional development, it's about students, they stay on track, and so on. We don't have a single paper that I read that says that because we do 2BL, you become a better learner academically. Like you do not really perform better in an exam if you do TBL. So if what we are after is that our students, they're going to get better marks because of the TBL, it's not make you worse, but it's not going to make you a high distinction person. Yeah? And that's something that also I found with my research. So I will never go to the students to say that I do that because you will know the facts, you're going to get better marks. It's not part of that story.
Not even to get them from failing to pass.
Things like that, they might work. Fair enough.
But they'll be applying themselves better practically.
Yes. The main thing here is, A, that they are engaging more with the process. B, they develop skills around teamwork, hence the team-based, and skills that they are not assessed. Yes. And perhaps that's the problem in the literature, because if you assess the exam, you don't assess. If you had an assessment of skills, I will find that the TBL will be higher up. But because we still assess content, if someone stays at home memorizing the exam questions, or if they're doing TBL, the likelihood of them passing is the same. What, however, the TBL person will be left with is still going to pass with some good mark, but they will also have a better integration, they will have a better professional development, meaning from the transferable skills and so on. For the working environment, that is where the big thing is. So please do not raise expectations to the students to say that, you know, oh, I'm doing that because everybody now is going to be taking high distinctions. It's not going to happen. The more, but definitely you will put a more focused effort to study. So from that point of view, the worst students, they have a better chance of going. I'm going to show you of these kind of things. Yeah, show that. So since 2016, he is the most detailed literature use, 18 studies on medical students, 5 studies on nursing, and 1 on organizational psychology and economics on TBL. And the main things that they've done is that they found student satisfaction with attitudes towards team collaborative learning, was increased from that point of view. Positive attitudes towards teamwork as a result of the TBL. Effects from the faculty's perspective, so the students, they responded positively to the value of the lecturer, which is, again, is a problem. You know, they feel they don't get enough. But actually what these guys found, they felt that you put a lot of effort to have a structure and all this kind of thinking that goes, and they do appreciate it, which is very important. And of course, the out-class engagement and preparation for pre-tests and so on. In the examination scores, these guys, they found some mild correlation, but believe me, it was not something that is, I wouldn't use it in any kind of thing. On the other side, we have some studies about found the pre-class reading unnecessary. This is the negative aspect. Some people, they felt that they prefer to go back to the preferred lectures.
But the reality there is students don't like to be paid. They like to come in, be passive, do nothing. Yeah, so that makes sense.
So again, setting expectations. You might have 1,000 students plus. There will be 100, 150 that they will do it because you ask them to do it, and they will not enjoy it, and so on. The reality, though, is that these guys, I think they will be unhappy anyway, even if you just do your lecture. But what we found out from research is that some of these, they start moving more into the positive attitude towards learning. This is also focus group. It's a more qualitative study, smaller scale, and so on. Number of studies related to TBL have suffered from design deficiencies. That's the biggest problem. The design deficiency is people mixing and matching what they call. So you've done TBL and you've done IRAT versus final grades, and there's no TRAT at all in your. So actually what you've done is a quiz. How does it correlate with your thing? Like deficiencies, they will be all over the place. And to be honest, we're going to be another deficiency at some point, because that's how reality is. Significant pose on large scale. Also, they found on small groups as well. So even in the teams, I think, of 20, 25, 30 students, even in that case, that naturally you can have a discussion, having the structure was quite positive. Okay? You will see the areas. This is constant message. The areas where satisfaction comes. No one says, I became a better performer academically. It's about satisfaction with team. Satisfaction with team experience. Can we achieve that? That everybody complains that they don't know how to do it. Satisfaction with peer evaluation, knowing why they peer evaluate. These are things. And that, again, from a School of Medicine. Now, I'm going to show you quickly, if I can put this down. Sorry guys, I'm closing this. And this is now our own research at Macquarie. Slideshow from current slide. It was between the clinical science students and the big history students. So media, arts and medicine combination. And I was involved with both in my capacity. We had collectively around 300 students, but being a research that is volunteer, 117 they consent for us to be able to use the data, but it was a mix of students, so it was a good ratio between gender and academic performance that we test at the end. They were given a questionnaire just before they started the TBL. Then they were given a TBL introduction, and then they were given a questionnaire immediately after they completed their final TBL, but before any of the marks and results were released for the final assessments, because we didn't want them to, if they fail or they do, to blame the TBL. Yeah, we just want to say, now that you finish, how do you feel? We collected demographics, and the demographics were more around, obviously, their gender, their language, their background, if they had any TBL experience from any other things. We had a small set of questions that it was around student profiling in terms of how they prefer to learn. Okay, are you more of a self-learner? Are you more of a team player? Are you a reflector? Are you more of a self-regulator? There are ready-made tools that you can adapt to use from the methodology. Important thing, we asked 3 questions about the hours of study, of readings, of media, that was the video, and other resources. We asked them, these are more Macquarie, not Macquarie Australian, so their ATAR is their entry score to the university. So when they arrived at university, whether they were a 75 out of 100 student, so where they are in their entry point to the university. Their GPA is their grade point average, is what is the average of all the subjects they studied at the time that they were doing TBL. Just to get an idea if they were good students, average students, failing students. And the final mark for the unit inclusive of the TBL. So how they achieved not only the TBL activities, but also in their exam or any other essays that they had. Then we had the IRAT and the TRAT performance. And a final set of questions was about their experience, not only at TBL, but experience of learning in the university. So for example, from your experience to now, how would you rate the quality of lecturing in the university? From 1 to 5. From your experience until now, how would you rate the quality of the learning and teaching methodologies at Macquarie? And we did that as a preview. And then same questions at the end. So in the pre-learning, there will be a typical question, will be a teaching method at Macquarie support my professional development. Teaching methods at Macquarie are innovative. Altogether, I'm satisfied with my acquisition of skills. And there will be a statement, and from 1 to 5, I agree to strongly disagree. And then, obviously, TBL teaching method supports, they become more specific about the TBL in that kind of space. So, let's take them one on one. The big thing for us was that students overall, so we grouped all the quality of learning and teaching questions as one. I think it was like 6 questions, and we took the average score of these 6 questions, and we call it together the learning experience, was significantly higher after the introduction of the TBL. So they went through the process, and instead of coming back to say, you killed us, so much work, they have, I think, 2.5 average higher. It was huge, from that 2.4 or something like that. Positive students' reflections on learning experience was not significantly correlated with any of these measures, which means that the students that they were about to fail and the high distinctions, they equally valued the experience. Very important to us. Because there were still students that they were barely passing the unit through the TBL. It's not that everybody, as I said. But none of them, they said, oh my God, I put this extra hours, everything, and I'm still kind of failing. That's why I hate my experience in the university. It was a very, very positive. Well, the methodology was just MANOVA, very simple statistical analysis. We didn't do anything sophisticated, but that's where we are. The total hours will significantly increase and the introduction of TBL by 3 hours on average, which means that some of the students, they told us they study half an hour before they come to the class. Yeah? Some of them, they said they don't study at all, any of the resources before they go to the class. On average, it was 3 hours studying after the TBL, throughout the TBL, from all of them. ATAR and GPA were negatively correlated with the hours of study prior to the introduction of TBL, and all were positive qualitative after the introduction of the TBL. Okay? So students with good academic abilities rely on them, but through the TBL, everybody engages. So the high students, they will still maintain their active pace, and the low students, they will catch up with the pace of studying, which is good, if it is an outcome that we want to take. Yeah, so it didn't make the high students to say, oh, I'm not going to bother, I have enough. They maintained the good results. As you can expect, they were not significantly different to their GPA. And these are the grade point average is the GPA, yeah? So that's the overall marks that they get across everything. The final mark positively correlates with the IRATs. So the IRATs, they predict academic performance, which on its own, you can use it as an early indicator of student performance, and you could intervene to say to the student, your IRAT is slow, you know, what are you doing? Can you study more or anything? Because in our university, we need to have an early intervention, as we call it. Before week 4, we need to identify the students at risk. So just by doing the IRAT, you already have this methodology established. TRAT could be used as a platform of other academic abilities, yes, because the TRAT was not correlated, so it was irrelevant to them. As you expect, students' performance on the T was higher than the I, and this is constant across the literature. Yeah, so you'll get a lot of 80, 90, 100% in the TRATs, and you'll get a lot of 50 and 60% in the IRATs, but that's how it goes. Okay, but regardless of the students that they were negative in the IRAT and negative in the TRAT, let's say, regardless of that, they didn't change their opinion about the experience of being part. So if they were still always low in the IRAT, and they were only catching up in the TRAT, the low performers actually, the low performers, they told us that it didn't have any impact on how they perceived the experience of being in the TBL, which is good, encouraging for us. Very important for us here. We didn't have any problems with a particular gender or level at university and their experience. So regardless you are a male or female, whether you are a university at year 1 or you had repeated session or whatever, students, they valued that. I mean, it was a constant message. We study hard, we might be failing, but the whole of the experience has been improved. Most of them, when we asked them at the beginning how they would like to study, they said that they prefer working with the lecturer. That was the pre-questionnaire. After the TBL, it's not that magically everybody says, I want to work with my classmates, but their questions, they've been distributed around a number of questions. So there was one that says, I value equally my IRAT, my clarification session, and my TMRAT, and it was equally distributed in that space, which was a good finding from that point of view. So what we take out of this is that TBL increases a reflection of student learning experience regardless of what's happening in the TBL. I think, obviously, if it was a disaster in the TBL and it didn't run correctly, you might have issues. But if you do have a sequence, it's fine. TBL requires more hours of studying, and now we are absolutely clear in our guides to tell them that for a TBL, on average, you need to spend 2 to 3 hours of preparation. Plan it. Otherwise, there's going to be some issues. And the academic skills, they valued as an important component. Things that we haven't done with this research was to take the confidence level and see whether there is a change there, and that some students that they improve their confidence level because of a TRAT or because of an IRAT, and these kind of things. But we need a more robust, I think, tool that will do the calculations for us, and a more robust questionnaire that we're happy to evolve.
And what about the soft skills? Because I know here in South Africa we call it graduate attributes.
Yes.
And then there is actually scales developed. So
yes, you can do that.
So
yeah.
You did do it.
We only used a scale around communication skills, only about the communications, not the overall. Yeah. Yes, for that. So that will be something we can do. There are inventories established around self-regulation. Yeah, self-directed learning. So by taking ownership of the process for the IRAT, and then ownership in a TRAT process, by contributing, will you become a more self-directed, self-regulated learner? My hypothesis is it should be, given these indications, but that will be another piece of validated research that can work with us. And the same, if we add the reflection as a component, there's a lot of inventories about moving away from being an observer or a theoretical learner to a more of a reflective learner, or from a theoretical learner to more of a doer, because you do applications. So I think there's David Kolb's inventory. That's a famous psychologist, I think it was David Kolb, if I'm right, in the US. And he established the Kolb cycle for reflection, and he has an instrument that you can use to correlate with different aspects. So all of these things, I think they will be quite positive things to do for that kind of space. Okay. So, what exactly is TBL? We know?
Yes.
Can it use with 1,600 students? Yes. Do you have at least some idea of how to use online tools to demonstrate them? We go, okay. That's again about large groups, how to get large groups to work together. This is a question about the administration of TBL, and I think we cover a few of these things, but the big decision about you is paper-based or technology. That will have a tremendous impact on the administrative aspect. To do all of these things with 1,000 students paper-based, that will be a substantial thing. How does assessment work in TBL? The answer is, you decide. But normally, as with everything, normally it's two things. Either you calculate the components of the TBL, IRATs, application, and so on, and you give an overall mark for the TBL activities, or you have an outside TBL task, like an essay or the exam, that simulates things that happen in the TBL, and you absorb the mark there. And in the TBL, they only get a 10% for participation. So actually, you assess participation in TBL and the outcome of the TBL as demonstrated in another activity, an essay, research, or you seriously break down the components of the TBL by having a clever way to calculate the IRATs, TRATs, and applications. That's the two ways. And the peer assessment as well, which is an important thing. How do you get quality IRATs and TRATs? You start from the learning outcomes. That's the important thing. And you allow enough space in the 10, 15 questions to move and play with the different levels of bloom. So not everything is conceptual. You almost take them to the level of an application, but you don't actually throw a big scenario, but you challenge them. You make it more complicated as we go high, okay? Which is an important. Backwards design. This is about how to create a fat by eating a lot, but that's a different story. That comes to the workshop and be fed for 5 days, which is great. But if you're going to have a focused application, the big thing that makes the difference is what? Which S of the 4S? Specific choice. If you feel that you are moving away from a specific choice, you are going more to a case-based and not a fat, which is not bad, but you know it. So try to turn a scenario to have choices and then build on it. That will make it a more applied fat. And that's how things are. Will TBL motivate my students to engage? From what I've seen in my research and all the slides that I put there, yes. But always allow for the X amount of students that whatever you do, they will not be motivated. So that. And it's not a quick fix. It's like that, okay? And that's always. How can I do TBL to students that are not used to it? Devote week 1 of your TBL. It's only 1 week, but that will be the most important week to actually run a TBL about TBL. So actually introduce them about TBL, the methods, explain to them why you are doing it, and the buy-in. If you decide to do the Kickstart, use voices from your students that they've done TBL for next year, so they will listen and know what is the benefit from them. Someone here, I want practically to do TBL in the class with good results. Is that possible? Yes. I mean, but good results does not mean, as I said, that everybody will move with having, if you expect that normally your class was an average class, 55%, 60%, and by doing TBL you're going to have high performers, this is not the case and is not evident anywhere in the literature. But good results will be that I move my failing students of the 48, 49 to at least the 55, and see some of my big students maybe go up to the distinction. So we saw minor little changes, but enough to have the results. The good results are about team, collaboration, and these kind of skills. So it's not academic results necessarily. And the other one was about how do I do the online interactions. So your best tool, as we know now, is going to be the discussion. We don't have a tool in any of the systems that I've seen that it will do a more sophisticated TRAT than artificially replicating an IRAT, and that's not good enough. So remove the TRAT and replace it with an online discussion or some sort of a tool that they can conceptualize, Padlet, or something else that actually can go together. So I think we covered most of the questions here. Any other questions? We are okay? Enough on TBL? We learned. Which is good. What I'll do is, so two actions from me are to give you copies of the Word documents of the guides so you can feel to reuse them. And I think the best way to do what you asked is to put maybe in an email or something the instructions that our technologies use to do the score distribution.
And with that document, you'll give us the test back too, please?
Yes, some of the questions for the TBL, the ones that we are using for introduction, which is great. Okay, that's fine. I think that's it about TBL. Anyone is coming back after all these 2 days tomorrow? No. For that. So, thanks a lot for participation. Our online colleagues, it's been a bit of a lot of listening, but I asked you to participate. That's down to you. That's the thing. You don't have the magic to make the online people participating. Now, tomorrow, for people who are coming, is on electronic portfolios and capability-based assessment. So the focus will be to show you examples of how an e-portfolio can be embedded across a curriculum from a unit all the way to the course. See a couple of examples of templates of what students do, and then just have an observation around 2 or 3 tools that they are available and what we can do. I think it's 3 hours, the session tomorrow. So it will be an opportunity for you again using some of the sticky notes to at least mix and match the skills that you want to develop in the portfolio with the different tools and activities. So that will be the activity for tomorrow, mixing skills with reflective activities and templates. All right? So that's setting the expectations. Okay, thank you. Thanks a lot, guys. Cheers.